brief was that they were retiring, that they'd inherited this house. It wasn't really livable, it was a small cottage, and they were going to need to build an extension on it to make it livable. So they were going to build this kitchen space and this master bedroom space, which is what encloses this courtyard area. And they wanted a garden building. So when they retired, they wanted to offer respite care to the elderly. And so the landscape needed to be flat enough to be able to move around with a wheelchair. The client said that they didn't want a lawn area. They didn't want the maintenance of a lawn. Because the house was an old cottage, I think we wanted to create a design that felt a little bit formal, a little bit classical. It would still have refined lines that, you know, a lot of contemporary designs have. So we had this kind of formal space already arriving with a courtyard, and then I had this idea for a quad garden where the paths would be wide enough and smooth enough so that you could access them with a wheelchair. The client liked the idea of edible gardens, and then you would have perhaps these 4 fruit trees in each of the quads, and then surround the space with enclosure of bleach trees, some vegetable plot areas, a fruit net area. In the centre of the quad, I thought we should have an ornamental tree that wasn't going to become too large. So I proposed a cherry, so that gives us some interest in the spring with the flowers, and then we have autumn leaf colour change. And I think that that works quite well as a kind of an ornamental tree, but surrounded by this sense of edible garden. So that's where this classical sense came from with this garden, and I think it's been relatively successful. I've stayed in touch with the client, and she really enjoys the space, and she says how much it changed her life to move into a house where, you know, they would open up these bifold doors, and really, you know, this inside-outside space of a garden really worked here well. And they often go up into the other parts of the garden and sit and have a cup of tea, and, you know, like have this sense of different spaces, even though it's a fairly small garden, but having this sense of different spaces that you can go to.